Ciao ragazzi, my name is Anthony and I'm joined by two very handsome gentlemen to talk about Serie A here on the Football Worldwide platform. We don't go live very often, so if anybody does join us live, make sure you drop it into the comments. But if you're watching it back, thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you are new. Bruno, it actually seems like a day and a minute. It's good to see you, man.
It's my Serie A roundtable debut. It's been a bit too long.
Took 28 match days, man. You haven't been performing well this season, bro. Otherwise, we would have signed you in January or something.
Life's got in the way lately, so no, it'll be good to get the content rolling. That's for sure.
100%. Adam's joining us. Proper Gasperini slayer this season, man. Unbelievable. How'd you pull that off?
I know. And look, I think it goes back to his record against Mourinho more than his record against Roma, to be honest. But you know what? We're unbeaten in the league since the 10th of January. So
you're coming up slow.
When you say that, it's sort of hard to believe, considering the slumps that we've created for ourselves throughout the season. But yeah, look, I looked at it today and I couldn't believe that our last loss in the league was against Juve when we were up 3-1 and lost 4-3. So unbelievable. Oh
yeah. I was proper cranky that morning, man. I remember having a go, almost trying to bait you in a chat as well, because I just was not happy at all that morning. Yeah. But we're here to talk about matchday 28, 27 for Inter, but 28 altogether. And it was a really, really good matchday, to be honest. Pretty much went the way that you'd figure it would go at the start of the matchday if you were to predict it. Let's start off with the biggest result and the biggest fixture altogether. Missed the big game in Serie A. Olivier Giroud, fantastic goal. Like basically reversing the 1-0 scoreline against Napoli at the San Siro, and 3 points for Milan. They just keep trucking on. I'm going to go to Adam first because he's been a big denier this season because of his compare, Anthony, and he just doesn't want to admit it, bro. But with 10 games left, man, I'm not willing to say that this Milan horse is slowing down just yet.
No, look, I'll concede that they're in the frame. Let's say that. They're in contention for the Scudetto. I'll concede that now. I'll eat my words because, if you asked me 3 to 4 months ago, I would have said that their list and their bench isn't long enough to sustain a game every 3 days, which is, in periods this season, that's exactly what they played. But, Pioli's done really well in managing the squad and getting the best out of the players that were on the fringe. Who some of them now have just stepped up to be first 11 players. So credit to him and credit to Milan because I don't think anyone apart from maybe the Milanisti would have predicted for them to be where they are at the moment. Inter's got that game in hand, which after it's played, I guess we can sort of level out and see where everyone is and how many games to go. But yeah, no, really good win for them away from home. I didn't think it was a particularly entertaining match, especially that first half. It was really, both sides trying to fill each other out. There was a lot of lack of opportunities, but it sort of opened up a little bit in the second half. And you can call that a fluky goal, but when you think back to someone like Pippo Inzaghi back in the day, you just have to be in the right spot at the right time, don't you? So. Yeah. And Giroud was in the right spot at the right time, and he was able to flick that goal bound and score, and they got the 3 points.
Yeah, Bruno, I'm going to go over to you now, man. What does this loss mean to someone like Spalletti and Napoli? Spalletti crowing on about the mentality after they were able to get the last-minute winner against Lazio, but we've seen this before. And the funny thing is Adam has also seen this before. The Spalletti effect does not discriminate in this particular video today. Do you think this is the result that sort of puts the shell on Napoli and makes them trip towards another couple of bad results in the near future?
My honest opinion is Napoli, I just saw a decline after the whole Insigne sale and him moving to Toronto. I just think his head isn't in the headspace of Napoli anymore, no matter how much he says it. And the team themselves looked up to him as an individual, and knowing that he's going to leave, it's leaving a massive hole in that squad. But they dropped points against Inter. They lost against AC Milan. But that's not enough to write them off. That's first, second. And the team that's on the pitch, they can win this Scudetto still. Anyone in the top 4. The top 3, you really got to say it's quite competitive. And Adam touched on, AC Milan being a chance, but you just look at AC Milan. I can't see them making the same mishap and the same mistakes they made last season, where they just fell off a cliff, and they're leading the league, and then they're 12 points behind. So I just can't see them making the same mistakes. Kalulu played phenomenally for this squad, and you just see Tonali finding form, and they've just got the youth there as well as the age and the experience in Giroud. So criticism to Napoli, but at the same time, they pulled off a phenomenal performance against Lazio in the sense of that never say die attitude. But Spalletti, I know Adam can attest to this, he wasn't a serial winner. He got close many times with Roma. He went to Russia and he won, which it's Russia. He come back to the Serie A and he got into Champions League, but that was about it. That was about it. He's the Pochettino of the Serie A. He's got a massive reputation, but he can't really win much. He hasn't really won much. Whereas AC Milan, Pioli, he's done this before. And he's got the squad. And he's got the depth. And we've seen the youth really step up. And if you're asking me to pick one of the two, you really got to favour more towards AC Milan. But it pains me to say it, but Napoli, you can't write them off. There's still, 10 match days?
There's 10 games left, man. I said this on Interworldwide. 10 games has never felt like a whole season before, but this 10 games that's coming up feels like a whole new season that's coming up, man. It really is anybody's guess. So from my shout of things, it would have been nice to see Napoli get a point. It actually would have been nicer to see them get 3 because Inter holds the head-to-head on Napoli. Now we know that if Inter was to finish on level points with Milan, even in a bracket of 3 with these teams, Milan would definitely have the nod there. So Milan have the head-to-head on their side over both sides going into the final 10-game run-in, and we'll just have to see how it comes from there. Let's move on. Bruno, staying on the mic with you before we go back over to Adam. You're worried about Juve. I'm worried about Juve. Anybody that has Inter blood in them is worried about Juve. They're playing not any better with Vlahovic there than they were before, but they're grinding out the results where they need to. 1-0 against Spezia. Thiago Motta is not happy. We'll go to them a little bit later. But what about Juventus, man? They're creeping up. And now I'm actually hoping that our boy Adam and his Roma boys can put together some sort of run to maybe pull off a miracle and pick them to 4th. But that's not going to happen because they're going to be closer to 1st than that, aren't they, Bruno?
Look, Adam touched on Roma being undefeated since January. Juventus in the Serie A, their last loss was against Atalanta 1-0 on the 28th of November. So since then, they lost the Super Coppa final in extra time. But they've got momentum, they've got the team, and you need luck in this sport sometimes. And they play terribly, and they still get results. And sometimes that's the signature of a champion team. We've seen it before. Is it a little too late for this team? They're creeping up. The table stands with them in 4th place, 4 points behind Napoli, but 6 points ahead of Roma and Atalanta, with Atalanta having the game in hand, of course. But it's one of those things where they're a team you just statistically cannot write off until they're statistically out. Until the math says they can no longer win, it's like Roma and Mourinho. The same goes for him. Until the math says otherwise, the manager, their team, that really cannot, that you can't foresee them, giving up. And that's what's been the envy of many Serie A fans when it comes to Juventus. They just never give up. Vlahovic is bolstered. You mentioned, and you touched on Moratta not being happy. Rumors of Dybala moving to Inter for free. There are so many different news stories coming out of this club, which just points that there's going to be disarray. But their results, as ugly as they are, they're getting them.
Yeah. Well said, man. Adam, give us a little bit more confidence, man. Why do you think it's too late for the old lady to make a run for the Scudetto? And where do you see them finishing this season? Do you think they'll keep compiling the greasy results on?
I just think that they're a little bit too far back at the moment. So let's just look at the table. If Inter win that game at Bologna, what's that put Juve 7 points behind?
We're five behind with a game in hand, so we'll put them 8 behind if we win that.
8 behind. Okay, so 8 behind. So you literally have to lose 3 games, and you'll have to win those 3 games for them to pip you. I can't see it happening. How many games have you lost all season? What is it, 4?
Well, that's why I keep saying it really comes down to that.
You lost 3.
Turin in 3 weeks.
You've lost 3 games all season. So you've lost, 3 games in 28, which means that you need to lose another 3 in 10. The quality of your squad, I know it's been up and down. You guys have been sort of lamenting the last couple of weeks. I think that performance against Salernitana solidifies where you need to be at the moment. And yeah, look, relating back to Juve, I agree with Bruno in saying that you can never write them off. They're Juve at the end of the day. I just think for where we are this season, the way they're playing, I think that what's going to happen is that we're going to get to a point where, and it might even happen this week. They've got Sampdoria away. They're gonna trip up somewhere against one of these sides, I feel, and it may happen this week in Genoa against Sampdoria. So we might be having a different conversation this time next week if Inter win and Juve draw or lose against Samp. So that's where I think they're at. I think that they'll still make top 4. I think they'll be that 4th team, and Atalanta and Roma will miss out. But I don't think that they're going to challenge for those top 2 spots, maybe even 3 spots. So for me, it's a 3-horse race. I hope that gives you a little bit more confidence coming from someone from a neutral perspective. But yeah, I can't see where they finish on top. Like, you know, if it was maybe if they were 3rd and, you know, 5 points behind, with all games.
It's just played, it's 1 or 2 games too many for you, isn't it?
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. I don't think there's enough games left. We're getting to that, you know, time of the season where players are going to start tiring. And I know that's across the board, but when you're challenging for a Scudetto, that adrenaline gets you over the line. Not when you know, if they put some distance between themselves and Atalanta and they solidify 4th spot, I think that might be where they finish. And then, like I said, that adrenaline will keep Napoli, Milan, Inter keep going to try and win the title. So that's where it's at for me. And like I said, we might be discussing things a little bit differently this time next week.
We'll be here every week, man.
Both of you.
Yeah, go on.
Remain at the end of this season.
100%.
If he finishes 4th, like we're all suggesting, he hasn't done any better than Pirlo.
There's a little bit of talk about how Agnelli's stint at Juve is teetering on the edge of the shareholders because his decisions haven't been fantastic. And if that happens, then Allegri would go with him. I know there's a clause in Allegri's contract where if he doesn't meet the board's expectations in the first season, then he can walk. But at the end of the day, the guy's got a 4-year contract. And if he can grind out 1-0 results with this team here, with a couple more transfers, he can probably do better. But is his brand of football going to change? Because even then, if it doesn't change, he keeps backing himself in every bloody post-match interview. You speak to him and it's almost like he's more and more proud every week to win ugly. And to be honest, man, it seems stubborn. It seems really, really stubborn, Bruno.
Do you think... Sorry, go, Bruno. I'll finish off.
He's just the opposite to Conte. Yeah, Conte had every excuse under the sun, whereas he backs himself. So, yeah, what were you going to say, Adam?
No, I was just going to say, do we think that the conversation changes if they don't get up against Villarreal? Like, if they don't get through and he finishes 4th, so he gets them back into Champions League, do you think that's enough?
They should go through against Villarreal. I'm not ready to listen to the excuses of the Juventini if they don't go through against Villarreal.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? So if they don't, he's Allegri in discussion. Like, is his position still tenable? I don't know.
Well, the title, I think the expectations at Juventus it's surpassed sort of the expectations of every other team. If you can win the Scudetto at any other team, you're classified a hero. Whereas if you win it at Juventus, it's like, well, we've done that. We've been there. We've done that. Yes. You're not doing anything extra for us. We want Champions League. We want that next step. Because right now, all the fans, AC, Inter, the only thing that they can hold against Juventus is, how are you going in Europe? We've all done it. We've all been there. And I saw an article today. It was from a Juventus fan page, but this is their treble season, apparently. So there's faith.
There's faith, bro. Still faith. We'll see what happens. As Adam said, man, we'll probably switch every week until matchday 34, 35. 4 goals for Sassuolo, 4-1 in Hipster FC's home park. Venice it's just clockwork for the likes of Berardi, Raspadori, Scamacca. They're doing good things there, man. I think any club's happy to have them. I wanted to center this whole discussion around Sassuolo about Berardi because Raspadori is coming through the ranks. Everybody wants him. Scamacca's coming through the ranks. A few clubs want him. When is Domenico Berardi going to earn himself a big move, man? Because at the end of the day, this guy's got the best stats in Serie A, and this isn't the only platform to talk about it. All the platforms that I watch are talking about it. This guy could walk head first as a starter into any team in Italy. When and if is it even going to happen? Adam, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, we spoke about this last week, didn't we, Anth?
Yeah, we did.
The fact that Scamacca and Raspadori might be out the door come the summer, which might mean that, Sassuolo could afford to keep Berardi. I don't even know when he's contracted till, but I think Zioamo mentioned on one of our chat groups, Anth, about Berardi. There's some other things at play with him. He might have had some personal issues that Sassuolo have done well to shield over the last couple of years, which may involve some illegal stuff. But I mean, we won't get into that.
Trust Zioamo to come into the chat with some undercover info like that.
Undercover info, yeah. But no, you're right. I agree that he probably deserves. And look, if we compare him to someone else, he's likable to Belotti in that sense. That he could have moved at his peak, but he didn't. He remained, whether it was loyal or whether no one came forward with the cash for him, he remained at Torino, just like Berardi has at Sassuolo. But I agree with you that for him to take his game to the next level, I'd love to see him at a big club. I'd love to see him at my club. But if he does move, I think it might be one of the big three, Inter Milan or Juve. But I guess it just depends whether Zaniolo moves to Juve, whether Inter actually need him, because in a 3-5-2 that Inzaghi plays, where do you put him? And then Milan it would be a really good move for him at Milan, I think, in the way Pioli sets up. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens this summer because they might lose. There's a possibility they might lose all three.
Yeah.
So, big cash flowing for them, big cash injection for them to then, spend on rebuilding the squad and trying to stay up. But I agree that he probably it's probably time for him to move on and try and win something in his career or test himself at a big club.
Bruno, it's been a while since we've spoken, so counter question for you: Scamacca or Raspadori? Inter's going to get one of them. We know that they are. Who do you want and why?
Scamacca.
Is it because he just suits the Dzeko profile so well that we need to shift it to a younger, more versatile hitman?
I just think his versatility in general is very well sought after. These days, generally in football, you see a lot of players sticking to, this is what I do, this is all I do. And when they get asked to do differently, they tend to struggle. Whereas he just seems to be versatile. He seems to, I can do this and I can do that. Whatever you need, it was sort of like the transition for Perisic when we saw him as a winger and then he turned into a fullback and played that position. It was shaky at the start. So I definitely love to see him there. But as well as that, the talk of Berardi, I feel sometimes clubs, the smaller clubs, ask for way too much, thinking, we're in a big market, we can get whatever money we ask for. We saw that, I think that was with Komissu and Vlahovic last year. He put a stupid price tag on him and, no one was expecting to pay. But my biggest disappointment with Berardi is I'd love to see him put on the Italian jersey. And we've struggled in front of goal when it comes to the options we've got at the moment in Belotti and Immobile. And through no fault of their own, but let's toss it up. Let's change it up a bit. Let's have someone who can, maybe add that different element for the Italian national team.
I think we might see that come this call. I'm assuming that we almost guarantee that Scamacca's going to be in their squad, yeah? So whether he starts or not ahead of Immobile, who knows? But interesting. At least we've got that option, though. Like, you're right. So we'll see what happens.
Thanks, boys. 5-0 Salernitana. Bruno and I probably cheered. Oh, man. I swear to God, none of us moved a single step or flinched an inch. We live in the same neighborhood, Bruno and I could hear his optimism from nowhere. It was just, it's 5-0. It's routine. It's the worst team in Serie A, and I'm not batting an eyelid. Thankfully, Lautaro Martinez turned up to work on that day, as well as the rest of the Inter side turned up for their shift. I know it's not easy to win 5-0. I know you need to carry on. I know it's an example that you need to set. But at the end of the day, Inter has been so bad in front of goal as of late that this result had to happen. You can't beat Salernitana with a bad win. We had to go out there and absolutely slap them silly to restore any sort of confidence. So we'll start with you, Bruno, man. What was your reaction to this? And then I'm always curious to hear Adam's thoughts on Inter.
Look, I was 95% certain we're going to win this fixture. Only 5% was what Salernitana did against AC Milan. And that was in the back of my head. The only take I get from this game is Martinez getting that goal, ending that drought, and getting that confidence back, because that's something which plays on the minds of players, no matter what position you play. That confidence. And when you get that goal, no matter what type of goal it is, penalty, whatever it could be, it gives you that confidence. I can do it. He missed a shot in the first half before, well as Nilo, and he hit the post. And I put my head in my hands and I go, it's going to be one of those games. If he missed the post, if he hit the post from there, in my head, I was just like, it's going to be one of those games. We're going to drop points. And we're not going to be fortunate again this week, because Napoli or Milan, one of them is going to take points. And you know what? We've dropped points that much through the month of February, but the end result really didn't reflect how poorly Inter played, because everyone else was struggling. But him getting that goal, even if we won 1-0, it was the same outcome for me. He needed that confidence boost. I'm not sure if you knew the stat, but for the 5 previous games, Liverpool's backup goalkeeper had more goals than the entire Inter squad combined. And he played one game.
You're talking about the guy who scored a penalty against Chelsea.
The 11th goal in the penalty shootout.
Oh, man. That's
but
ridiculous.
It's one of those statistics, and, Barella had a phenomenal game, but can you really question these players in the games they had when they're playing against such poor opposition? That's what I dislike in a lot of fans, when they belt these small clubs, like, oh, this play played good, this play played good. When you're playing at 50% and they're playing at 5%, everyone's going to look like they're good. Ranocchia would look like prime Ramos in this field. So I just think at the end of the day, it was 3 points. At this back end of the season, it's something that Inter and every club fighting for it needs. But I'm not jumping on top of the mountain and preaching to the world that, they're going to, the Scudetto's theirs, because...
No way. We're not even first, bro, on the ladder. This is the bizarre thing.
Games left.
I still hear Inter fans say in chats and in forums all around the world, the Scudettos is ours to lose. I'm like, how do you even utter these words when you're not figuratively first on the table at the time? I know you've got a game in hand, but still, it just seems bizarre to me. Adam, who's been very optimistic about our boys this season, what do you think about our 5-0 result against Salernitana? And how do you see us going forward against maybe Torino, Fiorentina before we have to go to Turin to face Juve?
Yeah, look, my opinion doesn't change, Dan. I still think that you guys will end up winning the Scudetto. And if I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong. But I've stayed pretty consistent throughout the year. What you guys haven't touched on is that Stefano Sensi, Sensi's miss for Salernitana before you scored your first goal, where he scored it over the bar. I was actually watching that game, thinking of you and thinking if that had gone in, it would have been a pretty tense.
I swore my house down at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I scared everybody when that happened.
Yeah, but look, for the rest of the game, obviously, you guys dominated and got your due reward in that in the end by slamming home 5 goals, which look, I wasn't expecting 5, but I'm expecting you guys to win. Moving forward, and we touched on Juve earlier, but I think that's going to be the key for you guys, and probably put to rest any nerves that the supporters have as well. When you consider the running at the end of the season, so I mean, Torino's in a bit of a mess, so I expect you to travel there this week and win. Juric's boys haven't been anywhere near the form that they showed in the early parts of the season. Viola are hot and cold as well, so if you get them on a bad day, again, expect you guys to win. And then looking forward, you've got that crunch game. It's going to be we talked about Napoli Milan being the game of the season last weekend, but and it really didn't live up to expectations for me. But look, the Derby d'Italia, the next one could be the game that sort of clinches it for you guys, or brings you guys back in the mix and for 3-horse race in those last few rounds. So from a neutral perspective, because we're obviously out of the Scudetto race, it's brilliant to watch.
Thanks, man. It's good to have 4 people here, including Lord Figo, who's just trying to steal merchandise by the shift at the moment. I need that scarf and he needs that hat as well, Bruno. Moving on to the next game, all 3 goals, 2-1 to Udinese. All 3 goals in the first 13 minutes, goals for Deulofeu and Udogi, and also Caputo scored as well. Very good result for Udinese, man, moving forward. And Sampdoria, even though they've got Gianpaolo, they just still seem to be in the sticks. They're going to struggle until the end of the season, but well done to Udinese and Deulofeu. 2 teams that Inter have to come up against at the end of the season, so I'm just hoping that both of them are safe with absolutely nothing to play for. Adam, you need to continue with the mic. This was something else, man. I did not expect you guys to get 3 points again against Atalanta, but you've done it. You got 6 points over Gasperini's men, and who knows, maybe you guys end up in a lock-in points at the end of the season and you guys end up top of them on the ladder just based on the head-to-head. But Tammy Abraham doing it again. I love this guy, man. I can't even fake it anymore. He is a really good forward. How bloody hard is it to come to Italy in your first season as a skinny, lanky dude in the capital city and perform the way he has? Big ups to him.
Yeah, man. And look, 20 goals so far already this season in the Roma shirt, which, makes me really excited for next season. Because, look, you look at someone like Dzeko when he first came to Roma, struggled a bit in their first season, then exploded for the next couple. So I'm hoping that trend continues. But yeah, the goal itself, Ricky Karsdorp played a long ball to Zaniolo on the run, who brought it down like such a world class first touch. And as he turned with the ball, played Tammy through, who beat two defenders and slotted it home. But overall, we definitely deserved to win the game. Our first half, especially, is probably the best half of football we've put together this season. Resolute in defence, nothing really got through that middle channel. Forced them wide, and we know how dangerous they can be out wide. But we sent an extra player out there to cover. Got our 6 right back, pushed our 6 right back, and it worked for us. We hit them on the break a few times. Probably could have had a couple more, but our finishing let us down once again. So if you look at the stats, I think that we're not just in Italy, across Europe, where we've created, we're up there with chances created. We just can't bloody finish. So, look, definitely a win we deserved, which, keeps us in the mix. Again, it's amazing we're only 6 points off fourth spot. And then look, it's a long 6 points doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're chasing Juve, it is. But yeah, I'm just look, I'm proud of this squad because, there's so many deficiencies in it, and so many holes that I think that we need to cover in the off season by purchasing some players, but you can't fault their heart. I mean, they've been down so many times; they just keep bouncing back. So I'm really proud of these performances that they're putting in at this stage of the season. And we still got the Conference League as well. I know it's a third-tier competition in Europe, but it's still something to play for. So interesting to see how we go this week. We're playing Vitesse away on Friday morning, our time, and then the return leg at the Olympico next week. So interestingly, we've put together consecutive wins with Mourinho not on the bench, and he joked to the players after the game that you guys don't need me. I'll just sit on the sidelines.
I saw a photo. I saw a still image of him and his backroom staff watching the game in the bus.
Bro,
that was fantastic, man. That was really good.
So watching on the stream, which meant that he probably would have heard the supporters before the actual ball went in on his screen last week.
Yeah.
So no, all good. We've got Udinese on the weekend. So if we can stay healthy out of that game out of Holland and come back and pull a result against them, who knows where this season can go, because there's been so many up and downs across the league. So, but we'll keep plugging away and hopefully we'll continue on our march, unbeaten since the 10th of January. I keep saying that, don't I?
Yeah, you do. It's good. We've got 8 people with us right now, and you got a couple of comments coming your way, Adam. Jono says, in all seriousness, will Roma keep Jose because he hopes he's given enough time to build and deserves a couple of transfer windows? We've spoken about this before, man. I think the Roma board has full faith in Jose Mourinho going forward.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Jonathan's comment there. He's contracted for 3 years. He said that he's sticking around. It's a project that he's committed to. Supporters who have sort of been a little bit offside with him, my view of that and my response to that is just give him time to let him build his own squad. He's inherited a squad that finished 7th last season, so he's not a miracle worker. But he's a man that has the pedigree to bring success everywhere he's gone. So let's afford him that time. Let's judge him after a couple more mercatos where he's got time to build that squad. And then we'll judge him once he's had ample time to try and achieve something. So let him work is my final with that.
For sure. We'll go over to Bruno for the last say on Roma. We're sticking in the capital city, so keep it brief, and then we'll stay on you, Bruno, for Lazio.
Yeah, look, Roma, they did amazing when they performed against Atalanta. You really can't take anything other than positive vibes from that performance. If they weren't playing Udinese next, I would have thought the Mkhitaryan red card may have played a part. But they've got Udinese next in the league, followed by the derby. So I think momentum's on their side at the moment. They get the points against Udinese, and they're looking down, moving into a derby with full force momentum. But yeah, look, Mourinho's done wonders with this team. I think the biggest move he did was bringing Abraham into the squad, and Adam said 20+ goals. Yeah. Since he's joined. It's something phenomenal. And the last time I saw this was with Antonio Conte when he brought in Lukaku. Yeah. And everyone said, it's his first season. And he continued that onto the second season. But, 1 or 2 more signings, and I really see Roma becoming a very competitive force when it comes to Champions League, and especially in the scope of things with teams going the way they are. So, look, I think overall you're looking at a squad that needed time, and Mourinho's done really great things, and they've got a lot of youth, but the experience is starting to come through.
For sure. Speaking of squads that need time, Lazio's only 1 point behind Roma, so it's not really fair to put Roma in the argument and leave them out. More goals for Ciro Immobile, great performance from Luis Alberto as well. Lazio, I think we can all agree in the last month have started to find a little bit more fluidity than normal, but I still think they're going to fall short this season. We'll go to both of you for some really quick comments on Lazio's 3-0 win away from home against Mazzarri and Cagliari. Bruno, you first.
Yeah, look, I didn't catch this fixture. There was plenty of other games going on, so I didn't really catch it. But I think Lazio's biggest pain point is their conceding of goals. So for them to get keep, I think it was Cagliari to nil, it's probably a good sign. They've conceded 42 goals thus far this season, and
it's a lot, bro. That's a lot of goals to concede. I dare say, I don't think Fiorentina beneath them have conceded that much. I don't even think teams like Torino have conceded that much.
28.
There you go.
So they're on par with Bologna, and they've conceded one less goal than Udinese. So defensively, they're struggling, but it's, again, new manager. He's come into the equation, but I just don't think there's enough traction there. Lateta hasn't done enough with this squad, given them enough to build, to grow. Essentially, he's happy with where they're at. You look at some of the losses. They lost Casado, they lost Correa, and they lost. They loaned that guy from United, Pereira, last season, and he performed extremely well for them. But they didn't try to get him, or you didn't really hear much about it. I just feel Lateta really needs to invest in a couple of signings, because you're just going to keep losing ground between the Champions League, and then you're going to be fighting for Europa League and then Conference League.
I gotta love Zaccagni, man. I think he's had a great season at Lazio. I think he definitely deserves a national team call up. Everything he does, I'm pretty impressed by. Adam, I know they're not your favorite team in the world, but do you think Sarri deserves just as much of an opportunity as Mourinho to go forward next season? Unmute yourself and tell us something nice about your cross-city rivals.
That's difficult. Well, the thing is, right, so you've got to weigh up whether, like, if they do move Sarri on, who do you get, right? So do you get someone his equal or better caliber? So I guess that's the first question you need to ask. Has he been able to build his own squad as well? Probably not. So that's another point. It just depends on where Latita wants to take this Lazio. I mean, are they happy sitting where they are, or do they want to challenge again for top four? Because I don't think they're going to get there this season. And if that they want to do that and they want to keep Sarri around, then they need to spend a little bit. So and move players on, like as much as Pedro has shown some glimpses of form this season. Like if you're building something for the future, you need to move players like that on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this off season for them. Zaccagni was spewing when he signed for Lazio because he was one of my favorite players last season. And he's been riddled by injury a lot this season. Yep. So, once he's fully fit and you can build a team around players like him and Immobile, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But to answer your question, Anth, I think Sarri deserves to remain on the Lazio bench next season.
Definitely. Piontek, good for him, man. Banging goals in left, right, and center. Assists to go with it as well. Not the best result for Laviola, but at the end of the day, them and Verona are just going to sit neck and neck in the middle of the table as well as the season goes on. Likewise for the results, like with Bologna 0 and Torino 0, those mid-table clubs just doing enough to earn. It's an important thing to shout out Genoa as well for their recent form under their new manager. They've just managed to pretty much not lose the majority of their games. They're actually 5 results now, 5 draws in a row, 5 points gained. So better than nothing. I'm not too sure if they're going to survive the drop, but we'll have those better conversations about relegation and stuff as the weeks progress. Thank you very much to the guests who joined me today. I wanted to keep it short and sweet, and it's been exactly that. So, Bruno, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on Serie A Roundtable. I had to change the title just as I realized you two were coming in because I thought I was going to go solo, but this was very, very fun, man. Thanks for coming along.
It was awesome to be here, and I can't wait to have a couple more conversations as we start to get to the nitty-gritty end of the season.
Absolutely, man. Adam, thank you always for joining us with enthusiasm, bro. And I'm just going to say it, man, because I love him so much. Mourinho, Forza Roma, bro, all the way to 4th place.
You will get it out of here. It only took 28 match days. No, all good, mate. Looking forward to another weekend. I mean, European football will hit us before we reach Serie A on the weekend, but looking forward to discussing it again next week. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime, man. From all of us here at Football Worldwide, Forza Calcio, Forza Serie A, Forza Italia. Ciao.